Thanks for subscribing to and downloading Plant Talk with your host, Fred Howard. Plant Talk is sponsored by Franklin Park Conservatory and Botanical Gardens in Columbus, Ohio, featuring exotic plant collections and displays, seasonal art and nature-based exhibitions, outdoor gardens, and a variety of educational programming. fpconservatory.org. Now, here's your host, Fred Howard.
Good morning, Ohio gardeners, and what an interesting morning it is. We've got a gremlin in the speed box over here. There, now I'm hearing myself. I wasn't sure what I was saying. Now, there we go. It has gotten so dry that I got careless, and I hope you did not do the same, but I relaxed a little bit, and I was distracted on Labor Day, and I have several plants that may or may not respond to subsequent watering. I burned some pretty badly, and then last night, to make up for it, because I care more about my trees than the lawn, but I kind of take care of all at the same time, I set up the sprinkler at 5:30, going to shut it off at 9:30, or to move it and shut it off at 11:30. Well, hello. How's 6:30 this morning when I heard something hissing in the faucet outside of the kitchen sink? All right. So much for the water bill. Lots of things in color still for this time of year. I have 25 things worth at least putting down in flower. Some of it pretty small, pretty delicate in terms of numbers, but then we come to the fruit, and we're up this week to 12 different things showing fruit color, points of interest, and it is just simply one of those nice things that happens when you plan ahead, and when we get to the plant of the week, I've got one more for you to plan ahead on.
And sitting alongside Fred Howard, the Ohio nurseryman, I am Mark Neuse in our Plant Talk studios, and we'd love to have you join the conversation this morning. Our toll-free number is 1-866-PLANT-TALK with 2 T's, or 1-866-752-6882. And speaking of your plant of the week, Fred, why don't you tell us about it?
Well, I will tell you about it. I have not used the plant in a very, very long time, just because of, it's kind of like pinstripes and suits that go away and checks go away and 3-button to 2-button and that kind of thing. I had forgotten about Turtlehead until last year about this time. I was going into the airport, and there was this island of pink standing, well, nearly my waist height or about that. Couldn't tell the speed that they allow there. But at the same time, it turned out to be Turtlehead. Yes, Turtlehead. Somebody, someplace back in time, thought that the flower resembled the head of a turtle. Well, I don't know what turtle, but at the same time, it is really quite attractive. It's a good, strong plant. It does prefer more shady, moist areas. However, in an island at the airport, it was standing long, strong, and tall. And if you get to looking for it, it's also called Chelone, Chelone. There are 3 or so cultivars of it. Some, the standard, the old-timer, between 2 and 4 feet tall, and then there's a new variety that is quite interestingly named in terms of being called Hot Lips. It's a beautiful, solid pink, and it stands 14 to 16 inches tall. So those are the things that you look for. It's a strong August and September bloomer, maybe not making the full 2 months, but it's a good piece of time in that area.
Especially when nothing else is blooming. It's a
nothing
good time.
Much else. Yes.
That's right. Turtlehead. Okay.
Yes.
Once again, our toll-free number, 1-866-PLANT-TALK with 2 T's. We have several email questions to get to. There's room for your calls as well. And we have a special guest on the program today. Ashton Ritchie will be joining us to talk about fall lawn renovation and any other topic you want to talk about. We're glad you joined us this morning on Plant Talk. Stick around.
This summer at Franklin Park Conservatory and Botanical Gardens, the gardens are in full color. Walk amidst tropical and native butterflies in flight in the indoor Pacific Island Water Garden. View the conservatory's bonsai collection and experience the exhibition Origami in the Garden. Find details at fpconservatory.org.
And welcome back to the program. Mark Neuse here alongside Fred Howard, the Ohio nurseryman. And Fred, we have a special guest on the line with us.
We do indeed. Long time friend. I think we're still friends, aren't we, Ashton?
Yes, we would be friends. I would be remiss if I were to say Fred Howard isn't one of my longtime friends.
I was concerned when there was this millisecond between my comment and
I had to think about it. Fred.
That's what I thought. How are things where you are, sir?
Things are great.
Good.
It's a beautiful morning. A lot of hot temperatures down here in hot Atlanta. Yeah, it's been a hot year. This is the hottest year that we've ever had since we moved down here 6 years ago. Well,
and I compare that to my daughter's reports out of North Carolina, the same thing. They've gotten a little bit more rain than you have and so on. But at the same time, it's been hot, and it's also been, I think, a record breaker here in August, if I'm not mistaken. I don't follow... You get up in the morning in our industry and you go ahead and do what you have to do. And then you check the temperature later in the day to see if you were supposed to or not. But in a way, we just simply have to keep on keeping on, and that's what I do to the extent that I lose it. But I'm almost certain I've read the written word that we are in or have had the driest August in a long, long time.
And I tell you what, when you walk out there on the lawn, if you kind of listen real carefully, you can hear the grass screaming out that it wants some cooler weather, number one. And if you listen real closely, it says, feed me, feed me. It's almost like that play where you had that house plant that Seymour, I think it was his name.
Yeah.
And he yelled out, feed me, and that's what that grass is saying, because fall is the time to do that.
Well, my 1/4 of my backyard is going to appreciate those comments, because I don't know whether you were on or not when I was mentioning that somehow the sprinkler didn't get turned off last night, and one area of my yard is very moist. And it's probably going to say, feed me, since I leached out every bit of fertilizer that's ever been put there.
Oh, my. I wonder what the level of the Hoover Reservoir is now that that's happened.
I don't know, but that meter has been spinning all night long, and it worries me to death. Well, aside from those factors, it is the time of year. And as I made myself a memo the other day to mention that you either do it, well, not either. You do it now and late October, or you can do it just one time in between. But I think you and I have agreed for a long time that a fall fertilization schedule is what makes next year's lawn look great.
That's right. And all the experts talk about 2 feedings in the fall. I know the Ohio State University and also Penn State does a lot of turfgrass research. Michigan State does a lot of turfgrass research. Mm-hmm. They all talk about the importance of feeding in the fall. In fact, in some universities are even recommending 3 feedings, with the last feeding being, after you've had your turkey on Thanksgiving, actually walking out there and trying to keep from falling asleep by pushing a spreader across your lawn.
What is it that's in turkey that makes you fall asleep?
I don't know what it is, but it definitely works every year.
Yeah, definitely works, yes. And that's after you have put another notch on your belt. If you haven't, you have not had a good bird.
Exactly. Yeah, you have to open it up one notch.
Well, now, nobody is participating at this moment other than you and me. I have a question, and I think many people will be in the same situation. My home is 45 years old. The lawn was installed at conception, and it is still that same lawn. Therefore, I know, since I have not added much, that it's all old types of bluegrass. If I were, or if a lot of our listeners were to decide they want to thicken up their lawn, and what I have right now is a gas company repair in my front yard, that they laid down some really nice sod, and it makes the rest of my lawn look pretty pitiful. It's been there for a year, standing real sassy emerald green against my older grasses. What would you tell somebody like me, and others probably in the very same situation, to do to get that lawn, call it revitalized, for a general question?
Well, some of the listeners might be wondering, why would you want to update a tried and true lawn that's hung in there for 45 years, no matter what's happened with Mother Nature, the dry years, the wet years, and all that? But as you say, the grasses that were around back then are not nearly as good as we have nowadays. And the blends that you can get nowadays could definitely update But to get that seed in contact with the soil is tough when you have a lawn that's already growing there. So using a piece of equipment like a slit seeder or doing a lot of heavy detaching and aeration so you can open the soil up would be the way to go if you were really trying to get grass growing throughout that old established lawn.
That would be my suggestion to myself and others. And I just wondered if there was anything that improved on that for you. The only time I've ever had any trouble with that is we intentionally mowed the client's lawn way low, and we were doing just about as close to September 1 to 15 as we could get it, and we did slit seed. And within approximately 10 days, there were these beautiful little rows of grass coming up in this short mowed lawn. And he called and was irate. I don't want a striped lawn. I wanted a full lawn. Well, I had to appease the gods, since he was the man with the checkbook in his hand and hadn't paid me yet, that those little rows would spread out, and they did, of course. But it was the only time I've ever had a complaint about slit seeding.
Well, and people that don't understand exactly what it's going to look like. But that slit seeder works very well as far as planting the grass seed. You just don't want to set it so it goes too deep, or you want to make sure that the seed does come in contact with the soil.
Excellent.
Once again, our toll-free number is 1-866-PLANT-TALK with 2 T's. That's 1-866-752-6882. Time for your questions, and we have some email questions for Fred and Ashton coming up next on Plant Talk. Stick with us.
This summer at Franklin Park Conservatory and Botanical Gardens, the gardens are in full color. Welcome its tropical and native butterflies in flight in the indoor Pacific Island Water Garden. View the conservatory's bonsai collection and experience the exhibition Origami in the Garden. Find details at spconservatory.org.
Welcome back to Plant Talk. Mark News here alongside Fred Howard, the Ohio nurseryman. And on the phone with us, our friend Ashton Ritchie from Scott's, who can tell us all about fall lawn renovation. And also, Fred told me, Ashton, to put you to work today.
You betcha.
Oh, boy.
So we have several email questions. In fact, Randy sent us a couple of pictures on our Facebook page. And there was a vine growing in his beds. He says he's tried for 3 years to get rid of it. It even grows under the landscape fabric. It is so persistent. Fred took a look at it, the pictures, and he thinks it's, Fred?
I think it's sorrel. Now, sorrel to me always had an arrowhead-shaped, nearly arrowhead-shaped leaf. This one has kind of a mix of oblong and then arrowhead shape. I'm really not certain what it is, but I can see the way his pictures came through, that it's growing out between and coming up from the crevices between patio blocks, and then his written word is it's so-and-so. If I'm right, and I'm not sure, and I don't know how to get a picture to you, what in the world do you do about sorrel?
Well, sorrel does creep, and so it does have underground rhizomes. So, the way you describe how it grows, that very likely could be it. There's sheep sorrel, and there's other ones that have that creeping. And sometimes they have a little bit of a lemony taste if you were to bite the leaves.
Yes.
So that's kind of one of the way the old farmers would identify it.
Yep.
But there are a lot of herbicides that list sorrel on the label, and it's sheep sorrel, red sorrel, or different ones, but usually they will work pretty well. I mean, Roundup will work on it as well, but of course Roundup will kill any other plants that might be around there. But if it's growing into the lawn, there are some weed and feeds and Ortho Weed Begone Max plus crabgrass control. I'm pretty sure it's listed on that label.
Okay.
Well, actually, Randy even puts in his email that there's some looks like there's some other plants and tree roots and things around, so he's a little bit afraid to spray it with Roundup.
With Roundup, yeah, and whatever you do, I would just spray a small area first, and fall is a good time to do that because all the weeds are a little bit easier to control in the fall because they're putting a lot of energy into the root growth to get ready for winter, and so the herbicides that you spray on the leaf surface get sucked right on down into the roots a little more readily this time of year, especially as we get into the little bit more cooler weather.
And we can hope and pray for him, because I know that that's a rascal to get rid of, and especially as he describes and as the picture shows. So
that's right. Now there is if you're an herb grower, there's French sorrel, which grows a little more upright, and it's a perennial, and it's one of the prized herbs that and a lot of people like that lemony flavor.